How many people have heard of InfluxData? InfluxDB? More people have heard of InfluxDB than InfluxData. That happens a lot. So InfluxData is the company behind InfluxDB, if that clears it up at all. We're like 4 years old now, based entirely on open source. So InfluxDB, all the whole parts of the Influx stack are all open source. They're not currently under Eclipse, but I'm working on that. So it's basically an entire platform for real-time metrics and events database, right? And we actually trademarked time to awesome. I don't know why, but we've got about 70,000 active servers out there and about 300 paying customers, and that's growing, and I can show you a little bit of that. So why did we do this? Really, it's so relational databases is pretty much Oracle, right? Actually, Oracle just paid for our software too. So when a database company buys your data, pays for your database, that's not bad. Web pages and documents, Elasticsearch, big data, Hadoop. But for time series data, it's pretty much, there's a couple of other time series databases out there, but it's pretty much InfluxData at this point. And yes?
Where would you put Splunk in that?
I'm not quite sure, actually.
Okay. Feels safe for me.
I did not say that. I did not say that. So this is, we got these numbers from DB Engines as the sort of the growth of various database platforms, right? Time series is going through the roof. And not surprisingly, if you compare that to the growth of devices, IoT devices, and the growth of time series data is sort of tracking pretty much one-to-one. And that's because IoT data is time series data, right? IoT data is something happened at a time, right? That's time series data. We took a temperature reading at a time. And that's what almost all IoT data is, and so it's just time series data. Oddly enough, Influx did not start out doing IoT data. They started out being for DevOps monitoring. It just so happens that they're perfect for IoT data as well, right? And it's because of these huge volumes of streaming data, right? Millions of points a second. And time-based functions, and you need to scale for basically availability and size. We're now, according to DB Engines, the #1 time series database out there. Oh, somebody worked hard on these slides. I actually just did I did an experiment and I videoed it the other day and posted it. I was able to do the complete install of the entire platform in under 5 minutes. I mean, like all the way to having a running dashboard of the metrics of my laptop from 0 to a graphical dashboard in under 5 minutes. So it's actually pretty fast. And it's designed for cloud scale. The open source version doesn't have the clustering and high availability. You got to pay for the clustering and high availability, but the rest of it is all open source. And people have been using it, it turns out, for years for free and basing large portions of their business on it, and we don't care. This is not quite as interesting as this one, which is all of the components of what we call the Tickstack. So the T is Telegraph, which is a collection agent. And Telegraph has over 100 different plugins now for data collection. MQTT, RabbitMQ, There's literally over 100 of them. And it turns out they're pretty easy to write. I wrote one in about a day and a half. So they're pretty easy to write. The I in the Tickstack is the InfluxDB, which is the time series database, was written specifically for time series data. It's not like we're trying to shoehorn time series data onto an SQL database or onto a NoSQL database, both of which you can do, but ultimately end in pain. Chronograph is a front end, a visual front end. We support both Chronograph and Grafana. A lot of customers use Grafana. A lot of you probably know Grafana. It turns out we have our own graphical front end called Chronograph that does a lot of the same thing that Grafana does. And then the K is Capacitor, which is a stream processing engine. And you can use that to either do evaluation of the data as it's coming in and write sort of metadata as data back to the database. You can also use it for alerting and things like that based on what's going on in the data. I use it for doing all sorts of alerts on, I have a demo that runs throughout our company, which is all around the US in everybody's homes. And I sent everybody an IoT sensor, and I collect all kinds of data from their IoT sensor, and we have a central database, collects it all, and I have a little, for those of you who are at ThingMonk, I have a little, basically a glowing ping pong ball that changes color based on various temperature readings. And I do all the alerting to that based on capacitor. So I read data out of the database when temperatures change a significant amount, I do alerts. So that's sort of an overall framework of what we do. And I'm sitting here listening to all these Eclipse IoT projects and thinking, yeah, we could work in there. We'd be great in there. We'd be great in there. Because, again, IoT data is all time series data. And that's kind of what we do, so. This graph is straight out of an InfluxDB database because we collect real-time metrics on all of our downloads and installs. And we've been doing that since day one, collecting the data in our own database. And so it's growing quite well. We've got a bunch of DevOps customers, including Oracle. I just think it's hilarious that Oracle, needs a database for their DevOps and they don't have one. And we've got a whole bunch now in the IoT space and are always looking for more, especially in the IoT space. And again, I've only been at the company for about a little less than 3 months. But I've been doing IoT since before it was IoT. And people ask, well, why did you join a database company? It's because IoT data is time series data. It just made sense to me. We're also doing real-time analytics. So that's pretty much a breakdown of our customers. The 45% are DevOps, 35% is IoT, and 20% is real-time analytics. And that's changing because IoT is starting to really take off. And that's it. Any questions? Yeah.
Can you use any of the components that you showed without InfluxDB in the center of it? Meaning, you can route data, for example, through capacitor, and analyze without it needing to flow through InfluxDB?
I don't think you can do capacitor that way. I'm pretty sure you can do that with Telegraph. Telegraph is an ingestion engine, and I know that you can both ingest, and there are both inputs and output configurations for Telegraph. It defaults to output to InfluxDB, but you can turn off that output and put on an output to something else and turn on the output to something else, like Graylog or something like that, and you can output it there as well. Yes?
First you said that everything about Influx is open source.
Yes.
And you mentioned, but the distribution or the multiple cores servers, right? So the
High availability stuff.
The clustering and the high availability are not open source. We got to make money somehow, right? We can't give away everything apparently. I don't know.
You're also not finding about it. Like to open source that with Eclipse.
That part, no. But as I said, InfluxDB, the core, and all the rest of the Tickstack is all open source, and it's just that clustering and high availability part.
Is there not an option where are you looking at offering a storage just like as a cloud service?
We actually do offer, we sell two things. One, we sell our enterprise version, which is the clustering and high availability. And then we sell a cloud service where you can basically come and you can even do it self-service. You can go to there, sign up for a cloud service. It deploys a enterprise version to the cloud and starts running it immediately. And so we have a cloud service which covers data and all that, and we manage that.
In cloud or is this
No, it's AWS cloud. We deploy it and maintain it on AWS.
there an option for Android?
Uh,
My last question. Is there an option to if I have an Azure server, I don't know.
Not through you can't deploy to Azure through our cloud offering, right? But there's no reason why you can't deploy the enterprise version to an Azure cloud. We're now on Red Hat OpenShift. We just got, I think, in the last couple of days, got all the stuff worked out there. We're on IBM Bluemix. So we're starting to roll out to various other platforms. But when you go with the Influx Cloud version, that's deployed on AWS. Yeah. Yeah.
Did I get that right? That you're donating the core and the non-HA part of the Tickstack Eclipse? And if so, what's the timeline?
We're not, at this point, we're not donating it to Eclipse. I mean, it's open source now. It's been open source from the beginning. It's all on GitHub, right? GitHub/Influx. It's all on GitHub. You can go and download the bits and build it yourself. You can go download the compiled version and install it yourself. It's all there. What we're negotiating on now is whether or not we're going to move it under the Eclipse license agreement and have it be part of Eclipse going forward. But it's all open source now, and it's been open source since the very beginning, right? Yeah.